A week before her wedding, a woman discovers a hidden letter addressed to her father. What she finds inside unravels a decades-old secret and leads her to a sister she never knew existed.
To be honest, I read a lot of stories about family secrets here, and was always surprised by how a person you have known all your life can turn out to be completely different from what you know. It always seemed to me that these stories were greatly embellished, or that some little things that play a key role were not told. Because it simply cannot be so. These stories always seemed like something on the verge of fantasy. And even more so, I never thought that something like this could happen to me. Just as I could not imagine that the day that was supposed to be the happiest in my life would turn everything I believed in upside down. My wedding was supposed to take place in a week. Tom and I had been preparing for it for a whole year, and everything was almost ready. The dress, the hall, the music, the guest list. We had been dating for 4 years, and he was the most reliable, calm, and loving person in my life. I had dreamed of this moment since childhood. My family supported us, especially my parents, who had lived together for 30 years and always seemed to me the ideal of true love. Unfortunately, my dad didn't live to see this moment for a little while. But I believe that he was with me on this day and was watching. On the day it all started, I came to my parents' house to take some old books that I wanted to use in the design of the hall, as part of the decor. Mom kept them in my father's office, and knowing that she would not be home, I climbed up to the top shelves myself. When I pulled one of the volumes towards me, a thick envelope fell out of it. It was old, yellowed, with a handwritten address and no stamp. It said, "For Michael. Only for you. Michael is my father. He died 2 years ago of cancer. We were in grief all this time. It is truly a huge grief for our entire family. Especially because I did not want to read someone else's. But everything inside stirred. There was something in this letter. Not right. Something hidden. Do you know this feeling? It was like someone had quietly closed a door behind you. I turned him around. Michael. Sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy when I think about those years. I never wanted to destroy your family. But you know yourself, what happened between us was not fleeting. I will always be grateful to you for those moments, for those words, for the tenderness, for the way you looked at me when you thought no one was looking. I'm not asking you to come back, and you never had to choose. But you should know, you have a daughter. She's 24 now. She looks so much like you that it's ridiculous. And she has your eyes. I've never told anyone, and I never will. But I needed to tell you. Thank you for everything. For the best years of my life. Allison. My hands were shaking. 24 years, that means... This woman had her while my dad was married to my mom. And all that time we lived like the perfect family. Taking Christmas photos, going on picnics, and having dinner together every Sunday. I felt something cracking inside. This wasn't just a lie, it was a whole parallel life. I didn't tell my mom that I found the letter. At first I thought, maybe this is a joke? Maybe it was a figment of my imagination? But I couldn't just forget. Plus, I didn't know if my mom knew about it. My head was just exploding. And all this at a time when I was already in the middle of wedding preparations. That was the last thing I needed. I literally didn't know what to do, how to feel about it. I went home and started searching social media. Allison's name, her daughter's age, the city where my father once worked. I sat there until 4 in the morning and finally came across a profile on Facebook. A woman named Allison James, 50, living in the suburbs. A couple of posts, almost nothing personal. But one photo made me freeze. A girl standing next to her at a birthday party. That daughter. She really did have my father's eyes, his chin, even the dimple in her cheek, the same as mine. I looked at her and felt envy, anger, fear. It was like someone had taken a knife to my entire life and said, "Now put it back together." I couldn't sleep for the next week. I didn't tell Tom what I'd found. I tried to act normal, but it was like I was playing a role. The night before the wedding, I finally told my mom. We were sitting in the kitchen, and I just put the letter in front of her. She read it silently. At first, I thought she was going to scream, cry, but she just said, "I knew it. The world has finally collapsed." It turns out that my mother found out about my father's affair many years ago. She received an anonymous letter with a photo of my father with that woman. They had a long argument back then, and he swore he was done with it. She took him back but never forgave him. They lived together, but they weren't happy. They were just pretending for my sake. "I didn't want you to grow up in a broken home," she said, and there was no emotion in her voice, just tiredness. What? How could they just hide it? How could I not notice? How can you pretend to be a perfect family for so many years? There must be something I don't understand about this life. In an instant, my mother seemed like a complete stranger to me. I left. I got into the car and drove to Tom. I woke him up in the middle of the night. I told him everything. About the letter, about my sister, about my mother. He listened attentively, holding my hands. And then he said, "You don't have to pretend. The wedding can wait, but you have to know the truth before it's over." On the one hand, I knew I was letting Tom down, but on the other hand, I just couldn't leave it as it was. I had to understand what was going on. I don't know if I did the right thing. I bet most of you wouldn't sacrifice your wedding because of long-standing family secrets. But at that moment, it seemed to me that I couldn't do otherwise. 2 days later, I went to see Allison. She lived in a cozy house with a garden. She came out on the doorstep and immediately understood who I was. "Are you her?" she whispered. To be honest, she turned out to be a very nice woman. Even I myself didn't expect that I would be able to talk to her without contempt. We talked for hours. She told me that my father was really a part of her life, and yes, he knew about his daughter. He even met her secretly a couple of times, but he always came back to his family. I found out that she was at the funeral, secretly away from the family. My mother and I were really in such a state of despair and grief that even if she had been standing in the front row, we would hardly have noticed her. My sister, Laura, did not know who her father was. She only suspected. Allison did not want to interfere in someone else's family. It was like I didn't know my father at all. I had very conflicting feelings. On the one hand, I didn't want to believe it. On the other hand, I was angry with him. And there was another side where I didn't recognize him. I asked to meet Laura. To my surprise, Allison happily agreed. I thought about it a lot later. I guess if I were in her place, I would have done it differently. It was the strangest meeting of my life. We were like two versions of one life. Me, in the proper family, with Christmas, grandmas, and ice cream in the park. She, with one mother, no father, but with a feeling that something was always missing. We didn't become sisters that day, but we started talking. I don't think she disliked me. At least she was friendly. Too friendly. I was always looking for a catch. I told my mother that I had met Allison and Lola. Mom was very surprised that I decided to do this, but she didn't comment on it in any negative way. It seems that she was so tired of the lies that she was ready for any outcome in this story. Mom and I really did distance ourselves. I no longer felt that I had an example, my family, my support. Now only Tom is my family, although I don't trust him 100%. In general, I have become very suspicious and distrustful. Sometimes I think that I could use a couple of sessions with a psychologist because this story clearly left a much bigger mark on me than I think. 6 months passed. Tom and I got married, but it was a completely different ceremony. Without glitter, without family, just the two of us. That's how I felt when I returned home. Now I sometimes meet with Laura. It's still strange. Sometimes it hurts. But I understand that part of my life was a lie, and I want at least its continuation to be real. Yesterday, I got an invitation to Allison's birthday party. It's a very strange feeling. It's like they want me to become a part of their family. Maybe they are pleased that I am a part of my father next to them. Well, that's understandable. He didn't lie to them. His bright memory is blackened only for me.